It's my turn. Hi, I'm Kate. I'm the CEO of Lately and the co-founder. And the worst advice I ever got was don't swear in front of investors.
Who the fuck told you that, Kate? Don't swear in front of
Exactly.
investors. Who said that? Why
It's
did they
actually
say that?
it's actually someone I love, and they were trying to help me. And it's because the times are what they are still amazingly, and they were trying to protect me and help me. But what I found was um, the more I am who I am, the more I attract the people that lift me up, right?
Yeah.
It's so cliche. Like, I mean, so converse of that advice is be yourself, right? Which I find that's hard to listen to because it feels like a duh, right? Duh, of course I'm myself. But when you sit down and really examine that, so often, so many of us are not. And I'll give you another example, right? So I talk about using weak words and how women especially seem to undercut our own authority with language. So, for example, we'll say, "Oh, I just wanted to say hi," right? Or I think XYZ, where it should be, I know XYZ. And when we don't even realize this, it's just a construct that we've been, taught all the time, always apologizing, right? And when you stop doing that, so many things happen. You become the authority, you become credible, you empower yourself, then you empower others, right? When you are yourself, you know this, Phil, more than anybody. When you are yourself, you give other people permission to be themselves, to say fuck, right? Then everyone's
Yep.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's interesting. I would argue though, there's one more reason why we don't believe that advice. And that's because we don't believe we're good enough. We don't believe that we're enough just as we are. So we have to show up as we expect them to see us. Right. And I talk about the kind of the Pareto principle. I think it's Pareto. I can't remember. No, Pascal's principle, his wager, right, about God, but I use it in who we are. So
Mhm.
we can either pretend to be who we're not and they hate us, in which case it's like, I'll never know if you would have loved me. We can pretend to be who we are and they love us, in which case they love a fictitious person. We have to live a lie the rest of our lives. We can be who we are and they don't like us, in which case they weren't our people anyway. And then my favorite, and this is why we're here, is you be who you are and I fucking love you. And it's good.
And it's
And that's your people, right? And that's the thing. But often I'm guilty of this, right? I have said this my damn self, right? Like, oh, well, if only I were. No, screw that, right? Like, just own your own shit. Just
yeah.
own it, right? And I think that is the power, right? Because when we take it back. There's most people don't even care, right? Most people don't even think about us, but those who do are going to love us more, and we're going to give them that permission to be themselves. I think that's really good.
Yeah, I have a sticky note here. One of my advisors and friends, Joanne Wilson, one of my investors, actually, she's kind of a big deal. Google her, people. So Joanne said to me, "Stop caring," which is very simple advice and very good. And that's what happens is because somebody can sneeze and it could ruin my day, right? If it's the right person, and that happens all the time. Yet somebody can say something wonderful to me, and I don't let it lift my day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why is that, Phil? Like, we all do this. We put so much more weight on the negative than we do on the positive, which is ridiculous, right? It's that edit, the constant scrutiny. We like to joke, or I like to joke, that I have a gift of seeing the glass half empty constantly, right? And so that's a good skill as a CEO because it means you're always looking to find the problems and fix them. It makes it difficult for my husband.
Yeah, for
he's,
sure.
he's a good guy.
Yeah, yeah, right. But we do that though because from early on, our report cards have been, oh my gosh, you got 17 A's and a B. What is wrong? What happened with that
Right.
B? As opposed to you got 17 A's. Holy smokes. Right? My daughter sees that. She's 15. And I'll tell you, I do my absolute best. My wife and I do our absolute best to remind her, hey kid, you got such amazing grades. That other one, that's probably not your gift. Let's
Yeah.
stay here in the lane. But I'll tell you though, the world is set up to, oh my gosh, you got a wart right here, and that's what I'm going to look at instead of, hey, the rest of you looks pretty good.
So
Look at this
guilty.
guy.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so guilty of that. It's crazy, like.
yeah.
But all we can do is, I think Brian Kramer was talking about this on social like a few years ago. We were in Facebook land where it's a little more, relaxed. And I think he was asking about like perfection. What does it mean to attain perfection? Does one want to attain perfection? And I had said, like, I feel like to be human is to aspire to perfection, right? Now, obviously, perfection is a construct of the mind, of culture, of whatever it is, and it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's the aspiration that matters. So, like, be 1% better is another way people say it, right? And so it's a weird dichotomy because that scrutiny we're talking about, it has to happen because that's our nature. That's how we evolve as humans. We're competitive, right? That's Darwin. So we're always looking to win, to eat, to dominate, right? This is just part of how it is. But at the same time, it's the balance, which is, it's so funny. I was just saying this too. I'm zigzagging all over the place, but someone was talking about work-life balance recently, and that's turned into such an ism at this point where like it's a little bullshit to me, right? Like, if you don't love your work, or if you do love your work, then you're never thinking about a balance, right? It's just always part of it. And so if you're in this place where you're running around saying, I hate my life, when is the clock ending? When is my day ending? The balance isn't there because your heart isn't there. And anyways, so bring me back, Phil. Bring me back to reality.
Well,
I'm zigzagging all over, but
no, I think those are good points, though, right? I mean, the fact that there's a difference between wanting to be better
yeah,
and hating who we are, right? I
right.
think that's really important, right? And listening to the jackasses out there that are going to try to bring us down, right? So
Yeah,
because yeah, yeah, screw them, right? So there is a balance, though, right? So on the one end, there's the assholes and jackasses who want to tear us down. On the other hand, there's Pollyanna. Everything is flowers and sausages.
Pollyanna.
And
Yeah.
yep. And in the middle, right, in the middle of that is the real world. Right? In the middle of that is the real world. And the real world, and I'm with you, right? Like I certainly I love what I get to do for work for sure. But I will tell you though, the key for me anyway to happiness is to be present where I am. So like
Mhm.
right now, this is the most important thing to me. Right now, it's just me and you. We have 30 to 50 minutes together, and we will invest this time and make our world, maybe some others too, right? If you're listening and watching, I love you all, right? But I'm really concerned about you, Kate. You're my focus here, and the rest of the world be damned. This is it, right?
This is it. Two things there. By the way, I love that you chose sausages, flowers and sausages of all things. Like, it could have been bacon, it could have been lollipops, it could have been ice cream, but sausages they're wonderful. So good for you. I'm gonna use that hashtag somewhere.
It's my grandma's. So my one of
Oh,
my
really?
grandmothers said that. I don't remember which one. Could be probably my old Polish grandma who would say that. Philip, it is not always flowers and sausages. So Grandma Grabyshak, rest in peace.
That's perfect. My husband is Lithuanian, and so I will use this on him. He'll love it. And then the other thing you were just saying, as you were talking about it, I thought, you know, so in these moments, it's so hard not to look at yourself, right? We're narcissists, and the screen here, we're on StreamYard, right? It's split. And I've been so guilty of doing this, looking at myself as we're talking. And it's because you want to know, you want to do some editing. Like, how do I look? Do I look like a, homeless, zany person? I don't know, right? Which I hope I didn't offend anybody there.
Not
But
today. No.
not today. Good, thank God. But I've been trying to consciously look at you or whoever I'm talking to, and it is hard. It's
Yeah.
distracting. The other thing that, and once in a while you get on, I think it's Microsoft Teams, where like there's no picture of you, and you're like, shit.
Yeah, totally. I'm looking for me. Like I'm lost. I'm not here. Hold on. Let me in. Yeah, totally. Right.
It's so bizarre. I wonder what I hope someone will do, if they haven't already, a psychological analysis of the impact of Zoom and other things on, on all of us. It's so for me too, right? Like, so in case people don't know, in my previous life, I was a rock and roll DJ. So my last gig was broadcasting to 20 million listeners a day for XM satellite radio. And so talking to a black box of no one is something I'm good at, right? And so when the world changed, this was not a new construct to me. And understanding how to, and I know you have this gift, but reading a room full of no one, which is everyone, is hard to do, right? And the skill, the gift, is to make the listener, the viewer, the reader, if you're writing, feel as though they're part of the conversation, even though they don't have the mic, right?
Yeah.
And it's so bizarre to me, like that shift that I had to make. I mean, I remember after radio being in a position where I was suddenly on stage doing public speaking and having the worst panic attacks, couldn't sleep the night before, just all kinds of anxiety. And I remember telling my aunt, I'm never doing this again.
That didn't last, huh?
Not last, and what was it like? And I remember like this one. Can I tell you a story? I think this is funny.
Yeah.
So I was in Salt Lake City at an event, and I'm the keynote speaker. And you learn what you need on stage to make it good for yourself, right? Whether it's a glass of water or a place to put that glass of water, which is important, right?
You have to ask for both.
You do. Yes, it's so important, right? And then when you are on a stage, God help you, if the screens are behind you and you can't see them, you can't see your own slides. It's horrible, right? So here I am. They are behind me. I don't know any of these things. I'm really just learning this, having been in a black box for my whole life, and not having to worry about how anybody sees this. All I had to do was control the tone of my voice. And so there's a podium, and the microphone isn't working on the podium. And so they come out and set up another microphone for me. And it's the kind where it's got the things and all the things, right? And so this guy's here and it's on a stand and whatever. And also, so I start. And I'm the kind of person that uses my slides as like a dun-dun-dun to punctuate my joke or my conversation. So I'm like a minute into this and the slides aren't going, but I don't know this until someone in the audience tells me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is awful, right? And so now the engineer is coming out and I have to filibuster. So I'm like, how's it going, Salt Lake City? My brother lives here. Like, I'm just winging it, trying to whatever. And I'm also not myself. I'm in heels and a suit, which I don't.
What?
Yeah, I don't own. I own heels for date night, but like, I don't own a suit anymore, actually.
Yeah.
And so I'm like totally, really uncomfortable. And so now the microphone thing is actually dropping as I'm talking. It's sinking down, and I'm like sinking down with it like this.
Hi.
Trying to keep level. Mm-hmm. And so at some point, and I can't figure it out, and I just got to go. And so I kick my heels off, actually, so that I can be like the same size as the thing. Anyway, so I go through my speech and whatever. And at the end, the host comes up to shake my hand and say, thank you so much, whatever. And then we have to exit the stage, but my shoes are off. And so I duck behind the podium to put them on. And just imagine how weird this looks. Like everyone is looking at my host. I suddenly have ducked behind the podium.
Ta-da! Here's Kate.
To put my shoes on. Yeah. It was so embarrassing, felt like. And it was just this, I blushed to this moment thinking about it, right? Now this me would just celebrate that whole thing in that moment, I know. I understand too, when you embrace the fuck up, the room rolls with you. Then you control the room, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And that's life. That's the life metaphor, by the way, right there.
Well, it's work, it's life, it's sales, it's being a DJ, right? I mean, you can't control this stuff. Sometimes things happen. I've been on shows where my guest has had to run the show because I lost the internet. that I lost the second internet, that my browser crashed, my Mac decided to update. I was on, no lie. One of my dear friends, Bruce Turkel, actually interviewed himself because the first 5 minutes was me, and then I came, and then at the end he's gone. I'm like, well, if you're tuning in, I hope that was really good. See ya. Like, no lie.
That's so great.
That's terrible. Yeah. So and I will tell you, I probably should watch it, right? Because it probably is really good because Bruce is brilliant. But I think about that, and I had two choices. I could either roll with it like I did and kind of make it fun, or I could be like, oh my God, I'm such an idiot, right? I mean, that's the self-talk that we have in our brain.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's that's a fight though. That's a fight.
It is like that was one of my favorite radio mentors, Steve Zind, actually gave me this advice, and he said, when you make mistakes on the air, people turn it up. Mistakes are powerful. Silence is powerful, right? And once I understood that, I used to make mistakes on purpose.
Interesting.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there's a lot of reasons because, well, number one, so my radio voice, Phil, is a little bit smoother.
Oh, you're Radio Delilah. I knew I heard you before. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I wish, right?
Right.
And so I learned that in order to attract more of a female audience, to be honest with you, I needed to cut it up. I needed to like slightly break the sexy. So by being goofy, sometimes by actually just cracking my voice, like the way that a high school or a teenage boy cracks when he's, developing his vocal cords, those kinds of things. Even like we talked about undercutting myself on purpose earlier, for I'm a little bit older, but I used to watch America's Next Top Model, don't shame me. And Tyra Banks always says, like, to the models, like when you're modeling for a man's magazine, tits out, and when you're modeling for a women's magazine, you hunch, right? That's part of the thing, right? And so the voice is the same idea. What do men respond to versus women?
Oh, yeah, that's so interesting.
Tidbit.
That's so interesting. Yeah. So yeah. Wow. I will tell you, like, I have no formal training in any of this stuff. So for me, like, I don't know any of that stuff. So I'm glad I don't usually put my tits out when I'm on the show. So I appreciate that advice. So I'll work on that for the next show. It'll take some practice, Kate, but I'm here for it.
We'll let you know.
Saying,
we'll score.
Right? Yeah.
We'll score.
Right? So yeah. So that's so interesting.
This is nasal fans in the house. Right. They know it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me about that. So you're a DJ, 20 million, 200 million. How big was your show?
20 million listeners was what they said we had at the time. Because the radios, right? So the radios were in cars, and an average of, I think, 2 listeners per radio. And this was XM was in like year 3 or 4 when I got there. So they were still startup. It was very new. Like Howard Stern was not there yet, or Oprah. It was just us real people, and it was a really exciting time. I remember, like, within my first week, literally Tony Bennett was walking the floor, and we were like, holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a zoo. Like, so this tells you a lot. And so we were in the National Geographic Press printing building, the former one in Washington, D.C., and it was on New York Avenue, which now there's a metro there. But before, it was just being built. It was very, very dangerous. Like you would get to work early to park inside the gate. And if you did not, you would get someone to come out and escort you in, because that's how dangerous it was.
Wow.
But they got a tax break for being in a historic building.
Sure.
Excuse me. And they had, when I was there, the DJs were on the top floor. So there was this crazy floor where it was open. Now this was new, having open area. This this is 2004. Yeah, 3 or 4. And it was like shit everywhere, stuff hanging all over the place, all kinds of, I can't even tell you. Like there was one guy, Bruce Kelly, had remember that picture in the 80s where some famous model was nude and there was a big giant cobra wrapped around her body to cover?
Yeah, sure.
So he had the same picture of himself, which is hilarious. And his body was not model body.
He was George Costanza. I got it. Yeah.
Yes. And so this was like the vibe. Like it was just this madhouse, and in every format, like all the music bleeding all over and everybody yelling, and it was just this crazy time. People were outside smoking pot, like beer, always drinking beers. Like it was just wild, working all hours. And then in like year 3, like right around when I left, they had moved us down to the basement.
Okay. Well, you're moving on down to the Lower East Side, I guess, huh?
Yeah, they started cutting playlists. They brought in consultants, and then they were bringing in like the Oprahs and the Jeters and like all these famous people to have stations, because that's, it got commercial. It got unfun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I remember, was it 6 or 7? My friend, Karen Salmonson had a show, but the Be Happy Damn It show that I got to be on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, back in the day. So so that was fun, and it was call in, like on the telephone. Those were early podcasts too, right? We'd call in and hope that you didn't get a repeating line. You'd have to call back because it'd be like, hello.
Right.
Yeah, those are the bad old days. So that's
the bad
that's
old
funny.
days.
Wow.
I was listening to I was listening to the Jayhawks the other day, and which is a band. And there's a line that I love, which is, "You left some lipstick on the telephone." That's one of their lyrics, and which says so much, right? And I thought about the word telephone and how it's not going to be in lyrics anymore because it doesn't exist. And similar with the song Radio, like I love, radio is in a lot of lyrics, from REM to who Elvis Costello, right? And those are some of the great, and it's a great word to say, radio, because there's so much that rhymes with it. And that'll be gone soon too, which is, I guess I'm old now that I am missing these things. Is that what that means, Phil?
You're seasoned, Kate.
Seasoned. So much better. Ever the marketer.
So I'm gonna age myself, right? So do you remember the song by Charlie Dory, Pilot of the Airwaves?
Yeah.
In the 70s, yes. Right? So I think about that, and sometimes that pops on, and I'm like, I bet my kids will never know what that means.
Yeah.
Like Howard Hessman died like a month ago, right? Whoa. Dr. Johnny Fever, my favorite DJ of all time. Like,
I know,
right?
Yeah,
and he's gone, and it's just so sad that piece of the world is so different. But maybe it comes back, right? Like vinyl's back.
Yeah,
vinyl's like for a niche, not for everybody, but for a niche, it is.
It is like, so I think what you're touching on too is, it's the theater of the mind is the thing that we fell in love with about radio, which has disappeared because they took the fucking humans out.
Right.
That's what happens.
Yeah. Everything is everything's programmed, right? I mean, from the music to the, I can plug in, I could run a radio station from here without, like, in an hour, I could queue up a year's worth of music and a year's worth of ads and a year's worth of news and put it all in, right? Run an RSS feed in with an audio track. And here we go, right? I mean, I could create a radio station now, as opposed to having to put up a stick, find local advertisers, find a local jock that does it, or jockette, right? That comes in and does this stuff. I mean, it's so interesting.
Is sorry to interrupt you, but what's missing is the mistakes, right? So like, it's cool that we can do it, but when you take the human out, and this is the same thing we learned, by the way, at Lately with the artificial intelligence, which annoys many of our customers, but we know that a robot needs a human in order for the zing to happen. And it's the same understanding, right? Like when we talked about giving people permission to be themselves, it's the same idea. When you put a human in the mix and allow for the unexplainable, okay, the unpredictable, it's not just 1 + 1 = 3. It's 1 + 1 = 30.
Yeah. And we miss that. I mean, but still, AI has its place. I mean, you guys use it lately. So how does that work, Kate? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, we, where do I start? So when I used to own a marketing agency, Phil, I had this feeling that whenever I was creating long form content for customers that it was just getting kind of wasted. So say I would write a blog, spend 4 hours doing that. And then maybe someone would be like, hey, here's the title of the blog, read our shit and dump it on a link on a website somewhere. And I was like, boy, we got to make more out of this. And so this was the pillar concept before Gary V. Thanks so much. And it was this idea of like, boy, I just worked my ass off on that. How can I milk it, more? So Lately was constructed around that idea, which, by the way, I did manually. I did an experiment with Walmart when I had an agency, and I used this idea and got them 130% ROI year over year for 3 years. So I knew that there was value there. And, with Lately, we automated that process. So I'll just kind of explain it to you guys without trying not to be a commercial is what I'm trying to do here, but now I'm being obtuse and vague. So here we go. Lately reads your analytics from any social channel you give us access to, and it's looking at what messaging gets you the highest engagement, and it specifically is reading for ideas and thoughts and keywords and sentence structures, and it builds a writing model based on what it learns. Then when you feed it long form content like a blog or a video just like this, right, it automatically do that again. It'll transcribe the video and then take the writing model, read it, and it's looking for the one-liners that you or I say here, pulls them into quotes for a social post, and clips up the video of when you said it and adds it to the social post, right? And so the idea is, can we use these inside snippets as movie trailers, as lead gen, to drive traffic back to the whole, because there's some mystery there, right? It's not the total summation of the whole thing. Now, a human has to contextualize this a little bit because it's just a robot. They can run off the rails. But it works, and here's how I know it works. So we don't do any paid ads at Lately, and no cold calls and no cold emails, because we think that sucks. Do unto others, the golden rule. I never answer a call I don't know. And we have a 98% sales conversion because the artificial intelligence is so good at knowing which one-liners you're going to say today will resonate with my audience, that by the time they are coming our way, they feel connected to us. They know us. They're warm. They're warm leads, not cold, right?
Wow. So our humanism, our being ourselves, allows us then to connect because we have AI. Because frankly, a lot of times, right, I don't know what's funny. I don't know what connects, right? I can't predict anyway, but a computer can, because a computer can see the pattern, because a computer can find that stuff. So it takes the best of who Kate is, who Phil is, snips that out, shares it out, and then, oh, maybe I want some more. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so simple, right? I mean, I know that the CEO of Agorapulse is just at Social Media World and talking about the mystery of analytics for social media. And to us, that's a big duh, because we eliminated the mystery a long time ago, because it's not about clicking and shares and data. It's about the words. All communication is about what words are you using to get someone to do what you want them to do, right? That's the whole point of, honey, can you take out the trash, to, Lauren, can you update the sales numbers?
So what are the magic words, Kate? Give it to me. What do we got? Top 10 words. What do we got? No, I'm just kidding, right? I say that. No, I'm teasing
I have
you
one for
because
you.
that's what people, well, give me one. What do you got?
Peeing my pants is my number one hashtag. Because it's the
Peeing
one
your pants. Okay, well I will retitle this video then to Kate pees her pants. Okay, I got it.
But that's because, so what we use we learned to use hashtags because our AI told us that hashtags that are designed to contextualize an idea and augment it as commentary, versus hashtags that are designed to just glom on to somebody's top idea, have exponential more engagement. So when Gary Vaynerchuk tweeted about Lately, I wrote hashtag peeing my pants. I may or may not be peeing my pants right now. And that's why, right? So
I love that. No, but that hold on, that's so interesting, right? Because how traditionally we think about hashtags as a category, as like an ICQ or IRC channel, right? Slack channel
Yeah,
nowadays, right? I'm dating myself again with IRC and ICQ, but really, right? That's all we're at now. Slack is ICQ, IRC. It's
that's
just
right.
hilarious, right? But and they got $1 billion from Salesforce,
Why did we
which they
say
should, right? Why didn't we just keep it going, right? Because we could have spent $100 and probably bought the code from IRC. A whole nother anyway, right? Probably slash that too, but that's a whole nother story. Right? We're old, Kate. Sorry, mostly me. Anyway, right? Back on track
season,
here. So
season?
that's right. Oh, see, use my words for me, Kate. Thank you. Right? Yes.
Where have
So
you been all my life,
yes,
Phil?
right here, Kate's waiting for you. So here we go, right? So interesting though that we can use AI to be more human. That is
Yes.
so freaking awesome. I love that because I have to tell you, I push back against tech sometimes. And I'm a tech guy. I want to be really clear. I love tech, but I watch it get abused. Like the messages I get on LinkedIn make me want to cry
Oh my God.
because they're so bad. I had a person that was on my show a couple weeks ago that has automation set up. I sent him a connection request. He replied, and then automation hit me with 3 more crappy
Oh God.
messages. And I'm like,
You're like,
why? Like, come on, dude. You know me.
you know
Turn
me.
your automation off, right? Like, turn this stuff off. Use it for good instead of evil, dude.
It's because we're so lazy, Phil, and self-included, like
Yeah,
I say this to my team all the time. The hard way is the way. The hard way is the
yeah,
way. Yes, we have 9,000 email addresses, and yes, we could send some blast emails, but I know that if you go one by one, you take the time to look up each person and start a conversation with them, it's the difference between building listeners versus building fans, right? That's my personal uber power, right? Like, and
yeah.
I'll give you guys an example to brag for a second. So before I went to XM, I helped start a little radio station in Wilmington, North Carolina called The Penguin. Hard to say, The Penguin. Penguin. You're listening to The Penguin. Jesus Christ. I said that a lot. And I went down there and I had an evening show. And I was also the I was the production director. So the person in charge of the commercials and also the drops in between the station that IDs the station. Those are constructed by a human. And we were in a southern town. AAA is my format, adult album alternative radio. So it's music that usually we rank like in the 20th most listened to stations in towns, where like classic rock and country are first, right? So it's not very popular, but really interesting radio. And when I left and went to XM, they got the book. The Arbitron book came out 6 months later, and my program director called me and said, "You're number one." And I said, "What?" Unheard of. So I'm number one in this format in evening time slot, unheard of, against these other stations. And I was like, "How the hell did that happen?" And he's like, "You tell me. What did you do?" And I said, "Oh, well, I threw out your playlist." First thing I did. Right. So what I did was every day I'd come in before an hour and I would take the 4 hours of music and I would rearrange all the songs. And I would do that so that the new songs and the old songs bled into each other, so that every time you heard a new song, your nostalgia kicked in and your recognition that there was some kind of callback. So it felt like there was a connection to the music, right? From song to song. And then I was live. So it was my voice on the air. So I made all my mistakes and did my things we're talking about here. And then it was my voice in between, or my ideas in between. All the drops were mine. And so I could control how they sounded so that there was no train wrecks and that everything was constructed by a human, and that's that's the first time that I understood that the power of what I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And in fact, I didn't even really recognize it until a few years later, Phil, like, to be able to talk about it in this way.
Sure. Well, often, right, our best things are things either A, we take it for granted, or B, we don't even recognize,
Yeah.
right? It's so strange. That's such a superpower, Kate.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we were talking about being seasoned. This is what being seasoned gets you. It gets you hopefully, if you're living, the life you can live, it gives you the wisdom, the ability, the perspective to understand where you've been and how to use it to get where you're going.
Yeah. Well, experience is a great teacher, and that experience is life changing. The fact that Lately exists is proof that being human and seasoning that with some tech can really be powerful. I dig that. That's really cool, Kate.
Yeah, thanks. And you can hear this, and just so it's clear to everybody else, is the metaphor we're talking about, humans and technology. It's playing through my whole life, right? Literally every section. So I'll give you another example, Phil. I don't know, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I have a partial permanent disability.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I can't type at all or touch my phone without extreme debilitating pain. And so I use voice activated software to talk to my computer all day long. It's called Dragon Naturally Speaking.
Yeah, I remember that from Nuance. Yeah, for sure.
Nuance, that's right. So I use the one for paraplegics, totally hands-free. And I cheat because I hear what I say all day long, right? I still talk for a living. How fucked is that?
How awesome is that? Depends on your perspective, right?
It's
Depends on your
perspective.
perspective.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And we're taught, I always, when I'm talking about, when I'm giving marketing messaging classes, I always say, read your copy out loud, because people hear you in their heads when they're reading your copy. And it's because I do it. Like I know when I sound like a total bitch, and so does my team.
Yeah.
Right.
But that level of self-awareness though is so interesting. So I will tell you, I may not I don't speak and to type, but I will tell you I can see the letters on the keyboard as I say my words a lot of times, because I learned to type when I was in the Navy in 1992. I had to learn to type 20 words a minute, and the only way I could do that is if I was at 0 words a minute, because we had a touch type that was like, most people say, well, just no, hold on, listen. They actually removed the caps of the keys and would change the letters so that A was actually a P and stuff like that, because I had to learn how to type basically underwater in a submarine in the dark. That was my metaphor. Yeah, that was my metaphor. So anyway, yeah, so I learned how to type. My pleasure. I learned how to type by seeing where like I can type now. I can type 100 words a minute with my eyes closed, because I know where the keys are. Once I get home row, really clear though. Once I get home row, I get that. But I see my words too. Like and maybe it's only a fraction of a second before it comes out of my mouth, but I see those words. And I won't say that I edit, because anybody that knows me knows I don't edit, but I'm aware of it. Like, I'm aware of what I say. So that's so interesting, because it's so different.
Yeah.
It's so different than when I just type. Like, if I don't think about it, if I just type, like if I'm just like sometimes I'll type up show notes, right? And I'll just type, and it's totally different than when I'm typing words when I'm speaking.
Yeah.
So different.
It's some kind of synesthesia, that is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it reminds me too. So I was a line cook all through high school and college, because you got 2 meals a day free, and so was affordable to me. And I learned a lot about visual, how it looks in the plate and all that kind of stuff. It's all true, right? And what you're saying obviously applies to words as well, like how people read with their eyes, just like they eat with their eyes.
Yeah. Cool. So Kate, so you gave us the best and worst advice at the beginning with, really be yourself, right? Don't cuss is BS. Just be who you are. So as you're leaving us here today, take us home, Kate. Like, what would you say if you want to get started on the path towards being yourself? Where would you start?
Wow. I mean, you have, for me, boy, that's a hard question. You have to go down. I have to go down to go up personally. I have to fall all the way down personally. Now, in order learn from that, I was lucky enough to have, they happened to be female, but two really great female mentors who, when they brought me on, they gave me the permission to fall, because they knew that my worst mistake was still going to be great. Right. And that's something I've talked to my team about before, is like, I am hard on them. And it's because I already know that they're 12s. I already know that. Right. So I don't really care. I mean, I don't give people a lot of control, because I don't like to be controlled, which, doesn't work for everybody. A lot of people need way more guidance than I personally am able to give. But if you don't let somebody learn from making mistakes, and really poor mistakes, really shitty mistakes, then they can't grow. So it's like a two-way street. Like, you need to be willing to go all the way down, or down at all. And you have to find the right people who will celebrate you in the shit as well as the good. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Find some good people and surround yourself with them. There you go. That's great advice, Kate. So, friends, if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're thinking, wow, Kate is freaking awesome and I want to be more human, I encourage you to go to Lately.AI. Check out the tool. It's really cool. The team is much like Kate. Every person that I've interacted with there is fantastic. Chris Bro is on. Chris, hi, buddy. So he's a really cool guy. So, but for real, like, they're legit. The software is fantastic. Watch all the demos. I am excited for folks to give it a shot. And Kate, I'm so glad you're my friend. Thank you for being here today. I so appreciate you.
Yeah, I love you. You really helped me today and put a smile on my face, and I'm so grateful. Thanks, Phil.
My pleasure. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for watching, everyone. Now go check out